By almost every measure, Korea won. In a single generation, it went from war and poverty to one of the most educated nations on earth. Nearly 70% of young Korean adults hold a college degree, the highest rate in the world. Its students score at the very top of global rankings. On paper, it looks like a miracle. But every miracle has an invoice. And in Korea, it arrives quietly, addressed to the children. Because behind the top scores is a cost most countries never see. This is the hidden price of the world's most intense education. Part 1, the cost in hours. You remember Jiwon. 17. Last time, we followed how he studies. This time, look at what it takes from him. Start with the simplest cost of all, sleep. Korean teenagers are among the most sleep-deprived in the world. Some studies put the average around 5 hours a night. There's even a grim saying that has haunted Korean students for years. Sleep 4 hours and you pass, sleep 5, and you fail. Think about what that means. A growing body, running on less rest than an exhausted adult. And it isn't only sleep. It's the afternoons that could have been play. The hobbies never picked up. The friendships squeezed into the cracks. For many Korean kids, childhood doesn't get its turn. It gets postponed, until after an exam that never stops coming. Part 2, the cost in well-being. Here's the part that should stop us. You'd expect the highest achieving students on earth to be among the proudest and most confident. They're not. Korean students report some of the lowest life satisfaction in the entire developed world. Top scores. Bottom happiness. Researchers point to one cause again and again. A lack of freedom, children with almost no say over how they spend their own time. And the most serious signal is the hardest to say out loud. For years, the leading cause of death among Korean teenagers has been suicide. And young people themselves name academic pressure as a primary source of their suffering. That is not a number any country can be proud of. It is the clearest sign that the bill has grown too large. Part 3, but does it even pay off? Now the uncomfortable question. After all of that, does it actually work? In raw scores, yes. Korea's results are extraordinary. But scholars keep worrying about what gets lost along the way. Students often arrive at university academically strong, but creatively exhausted. Trained for years to find the one right answer. And hesitant to explore the questions that don't have one. Burnout is common. And curiosity, the real engine of deep learning, can quietly burn out with it. So the system is world-class at one thing, producing high scores. The question Korea is now asking itself is whether high scores were ever really the point. Part 4, the cost to a whole country. And here, the hidden cost stops being personal. It becomes national. Korea is now, measured against income, the most expensive country in the world to raise a child. A huge reason is education, the hagwons, the tutors, the endless race. So families have started doing a quiet, painful piece of math. If raising one child to compete costs this much, how could we ever afford two? Researchers have traced it directly. As spending on private education rises, the birth rate falls. Korea now has the lowest birth rate in the world. Sit with that for a moment. A system built to secure the next generation's future has become one of the reasons that generation is shrinking. The machine is, slowly, running out of children to feed it. Part 5, the honest part. Now, let's be fair. Because this isn't a story about villains. Korean parents aren't cruel. Korean kids aren't victims of some evil plan. The love is real. The achievements are real. The pride is earned. Valuing education was never the mistake. And Korea sees all of this. The country debates it openly, constantly. The government has tried reform after reform. Countless families would genuinely love to step off the treadmill. The tragedy isn't that no one notices the cost. It's that, trapped inside the race, almost no one feels able to be the first to stop paying it. Ending. So what is the hidden cost of Korean education? It's measured in hours of lost sleep. In childhoods quietly postponed. In a generation that scores at the very top, and feels near the bottom. And, increasingly, in children who are never born at all. None of it ever shows up on a report card. Korea gave its children the most powerful education in the world. And it's now forced to ask the question every ambitious society should. What is the point of preparing children for a successful life, if the preparation slowly takes the life away? And if everyone can see the price? Why do parents keep paying it? That's where we go next.